Forget about Modi, forget about Rahul. Take care of yourself. Good morning, Vanakkam, welcome. Let me begin this video by reading out just two of the hundreds of responses I have got and I'm still getting to the videos I posted in the recent days on the parliamentary debate, particularly focusing on the two principal actors in the national drama of our democracy, namely Sri Narendra Damodar Das Modi and Sri Rahul Gandhi. In the interest of brevity, I'm just choosing two responses in random, and I believe they are sufficient to give us an idea of the ground realities. I'll just read out these two responses, one positive and the other negative. Then I'll have something to say which I believe is relevant to every Indian, indeed every human being. So straight away to the two responses. And as usual, I'll withhold the identities of the individuals concerned because that's been the editorial policy I've followed so far, unless and until the person who responds also indicates specifically that he or she is happy to be named in relation to the point of view expressed. My commitment to keeping confidentiality makes me refrain from revealing identities. So in the first response, here is a very interesting response. It is in Malayalam and English, so I'll also translate for the sake of my viewers who do not understand Malayalam. പൊട്ടന്മാരുടെ രാജാവും പൊട്ടന്മാരുടെ പ്രജയും മിസ്റ്റർ വത്സൻ. മനുഷ്യനായാൽ ഇത്തിരി ബുദ്ധി വേണം. So this person who responds says, Rahul Gandhi is the king of idiots. പൊട്ടന്മാരുടെ രാജാവ്. Rahul Gandhi is the king of idiots. And therefore I am the idiot subject. So my king is Rahul Gandhi and my king is a pottan, an idiot. Therefore, being his subject, I too am a pottan or an idiot. So this is all that this gentleman has understood from the 8 or 9 videos I have posted so far. At this stage, I wouldn't say more about it, but let me read the other response, which is to the same video. So it says, it says, Professor, you speak from my heart. As you concluded, I had tears in my eyes. The people of India deserve the best. Now, what I want you to consider is this. Two people, two individuals, two Indians, we're all Indians. Two individuals, two Indians are responding to the same video. One has tears in his eyes, the other has venom in his heart. My question to you, my humble question to you is this. Shouldn't we examine how this comes about? What is the causative factor? What is it makes people behave like this? Now, I have in the past done a fair amount of research on communal rights. I gathered data, information regarding about 1,200 communal rights because I wanted to write a book on communal rights, and that's a project that remained unfinished, and I don't think I'll go back to book writing again because reading habits of Indians in general have come down, and it's very difficult to make oneself understood in the print medium That's also one of the reasons why I thought I would try my luck with the YouTube, and I'm glad to say that so far the experience is very positive, and I'm very grateful to the thousands of young men and women, young and old, who participate in this process of seeking the truth and affirming it in our midst. We are a very small group, but at the same time, I believe we are a very significant group, and it's a privilege for me, it's a privilege to belong to all of you, and I shall continue to cherish it as long as I am alive. Now, it used to be said of an English lady called Mayo that she was the gutter inspector, the gutter inspector. That is to say, put her in any context. Her genius is developed only to see what is negative, hateful, and absurd. She is not free to see anything good, positive, or meaningful in any context. She will be untrue to herself if she said one positive word. So she has her own strength, and the strength is clearly defined. Her strength is the strength of a gutter inspector. Okay? Now think of another phenomenon in nature. You've seen pigs. Pigs go around digging their noses in the mud, raking muck all the time. You let a pig free in a designated area where lots of very delicious food is kept, but also in one corner, a little bit of human excreta is kept. In which direction do you think the pig will go? It will make straight to the corner, the hidden corner where the excreta, the human shit is kept. 5-course dinner, very delicious, very well prepared by the best chef in the country, will be ignored, and the shit will be preferred because that's the nature of the pig. The development of the pig is highly developed in relation to the smell of human excreta or human shit. In that respect, a pig is far more developed than all of us. So when we talk about development, we should also fix the parameters for development. Now, for example, some people are extremely well developed, alarmingly well developed, in seeing only what is negative, what is dark, what is sinister, and to that extent, they are also underdeveloped in relation to what is good, true, and beautiful. So they have particularly developed eyes and keen eyesight for the muck, for the shit on the landscape, but they are congenitally blind to anything that is true, good, or beautiful. Now you tell me, is this an achievement or is this a curse? Should this degradation happen to a human being? Now, I made a reference to the communal riots that I studied. The reason why I discarded the idea of writing a book on the riots was that I found researching in the field much too painful. It was so traumatic for me to go more and more into investigating the details of these most horrendous events, because one thought in particular bothered me a great deal. I remember traveling through a particular state when that state was convulsed with deliberately fomented communal riots lasting several weeks. And I happened to visit places where people who were displaced from their homes and villages were kept as refugees. Imagine being refugees in your own country, in your own land. I remember particularly visiting a small government school in which more than 3,000 people had been crammed. and the whole place was stinking to high heavens. There was hardly any facility for hygiene. There was no space to move around, no space to breathe. And I met several people who were traumatized, incredibly traumatized through that experience. Several of them narrated their experiences to me, spine chilling experiences. Now I carried the burden of all those stories back into my room in the small hours of the night when I couldn't sleep. I sat up and mentally reviewed all of them. You know, the one thought that burned in my mind all along is not really those who perished in the riots, not merely those who were left wounded, both in the body and mind, not even the orphan children, the widowed wives, or the parents who lost their sons and daughters. No, none of this really. What really filled my mind was the image of that rioter who killed fellow human beings in a state of great exhilaration, going back to his own home after the dreadful deed is done, after he has daubed his conscience with the blood of fellow human beings. He goes back home. He has a wife, he has children, he has parents, he has brothers, he has sisters. How would he relate to them? That is the one question that burned in my mind. Imagine a man who participated in the riots and killed babies, and many babies were killed. He goes home and takes his own little daughter or son, puts him or her in the lap, and fondles him. That's the one thought that made it impossible for me to go any further in investigating this most unbearable reality of the extent to which the human nature can decline and degenerate. It was insufferable, therefore I abandoned the project of writing a book. In spite of the humongous research I had done on the subject. Now that pain, that worry, that spiritual burden still bothers me. What is happening to the stuff of our humanity in the name of politics? Particularly in the wake of hate becoming the driving force of politics. And I'm not saying that hate has been introduced into politics for the first time by this party or that party. In varying degrees, all parties are responsible, are guilty rather, of dabbling with politics of hate. The degree, the intensity, the scope, the reach might vary, but parties have been seriously remiss in deviating from the path of righteousness in the practice of politics. And in this country, unfortunately, for all the pride that we talk of India being a mature political society, there is hardly any discussion or debate on what constitutes the essentials of wholesome or sane politics. Therefore, I propose from now onwards to share with you brief videos on the various aspects of the political culture that we need to mind, as well as the bottom line of ethical propriety that we need to hold on to in relation to the practice or the project of politics, lest we all get corrupted and our humanity perish on account of the politics that we practice or the politics that we endorse, even if we don't actively practice it. Now, coming back to the two responses that I shared with you. I really felt sad. My heart sank when I read the second response. All that the gentleman concerned could see in the videos that I posted, and you are familiar with the contents of these videos. I was not pushing partisan politics. I was not talking as a courtier to anyone. I don't recognize a king. I'm not a courtier. I'm a free a responsible citizen who values his personal dignity. If others don't, if others are happy to be camp followers, I am not a camp follower to anyone. Now, all that he could see in a video lasting 30 minutes is idiocy, idiocy, idiocy. Anyone other than the camp to which he belongs is an idiot. And what is worse, anyone who does not sing praises of the camp to which he belongs and his hero is also an idiot. Now, in the process, the gentleman concerned does not realize that he is cutting a sorry figure. But even more worrisome is the fact that he is unaware of cutting a sorry figure. Rather, he is undertaking this exercise in an attitude of pride. I'm sure, having written this, he would go around, pumping his chest, projecting himself as a local hero that others need to emulate. Now, this shows the extreme degradation of the human stock in our midst. If you have any concern for the country, if you really love India, if you love the state of being Indian as I do, then you would worry a great deal about it, because a country can be great only according to the greatness of its people. There can be no great country whose subjects or whose citizens are poor in their human stock. Human greatness is the precondition for the greatness of a society. And any political party, any political ideology, any political advocacy that corrupts the human stock in order to turn that into electoral gain must be considered a danger and an infection to the health of that country. If the price that the people of India have to pay in order to vote a party in power and to keep that party in power is the utter degradation of its human stock, then I'm afraid it's a terrible disservice to oneself. Therefore, the main message I want to convey to those who are inclined to listen to me, and I'm glad that there are so many of you, and I'm very grateful to you. God in heaven knows how much I love each one of you, and I thank God for each one of you every day, every hour of my life. My humble suggestion to all of you is this, and I'm going to put it in a provocative manner. Be selfish. Be selfish. Be selfish. Period. What do I mean by that? And I explain that and I'll stop. In this country, a very strange logic exists, and that is 140 crore or 1.4 billion Indians must exist for the sake of one leader or two leaders or even 10 leaders. By what logic, I would ask? Why is a Rahul Gandhi or a Narendra Modi or a Pinarayi Vijayan or a Stalin or a Yogi Adityanath or whoever you have, why is a political leader more important than you and me? Please ask yourself, X being the Prime Minister of the country, Y being the Deputy Prime Minister of the country, A being the Chief Justice of India, C being the Supreme Commander of the Indian Army, what bearing these things have on your day-to-day issues? Is that of any consequence? Yes, in a kind of overall sense, these things are important, but in the most human of your experiences, in your birth and death, in the moments of your helplessness, in the crises that you face in your life, in the disarray with which life confronts you from time to time, and especially when the society is made to degrade as fast as it is at the moment, when everything that we have considered sacred, valuable and beautiful is being desecrated in this diabolic game called politics. This is not politics, by the way, and what politics is we shall have occasion to investigate in the days ahead. That can only be a no-win situation for you and me, the citizens of India. Doesn't matter which party you belong to, which camp you follow. My elderly advice to everyone is this: take care of yourself because no one else will. There are hundreds of people, and particularly they abound in the domain of politics, and they are not infrequent in the sphere of religion. There are plenty of people to take advantage of you, to exploit you, to take you for a ride, to lead you by the nose as animals are. But there is none who cares for you. People will entertain you only to the extent that you're useful to them, just as they entertain any other animal that's useful to them, or entertain a pair of chappals if that is of service to them. At the moment the chapel is worn out, it is cast out. In the same manner, you too will be cast out when the person concerned, to whom you have attached your absolute loyalty, thinks that you are of no use any further. You will be cast out like a pair of worn out chappals. Only one person can care for you, and that's yourself. And if you don't care for yourself, who else will? I'm totally convinced today that the most fundamental and the most sacred duty an individual has is to take care of himself or herself. Now, what do I mean by taking care of oneself? To take care of oneself, or taking care, the essence of taking care is to sense and enhance one's personal worth. I'm saying this very slowly and deliberately, as you can see, because I want each of the words to sink into us. To take care of oneself means, first of all, to recognize the incomparable worth that you have. Others may not recognize it. Others may not concede it. Others may tell you that you are a worthless person, like this gentleman responding to my video said, I'm an idiot. Well, that's his opinion. That's as far as he can see. But if I don't care for myself, if I have no idea about my worth, if I have not cared to develop my worth, if you have no sense of personal dignity, then what he says will hurt me. In this case, it amuses me, and not only that, it made me feel sorry for him, because he is making an indirect but clear public confession of the extent of his personal limitation, indeed his personal degradation, his blindness. What can you do with a person who cannot understand the basic things that you say? I'm reminded of a Latin poet, Horace, Horace, who said, before the stupidity of man, even gods are helpless. These are words worth remembering, especially in our times. Before the stupidity of man, even gods are helpless. Yes, that sort of helplessness I do feel when I come across such responses, and I get several of these responses from the appointed, accredited camp followers of a particular party and ideology. I don't have to mention which, and I refrain from doing so. But again, I say that this problem is not limited to one particular political camp. It is common to all political camps, because wherever politics is practiced with power, that is securing and perpetuating the seat of power, is the prime goal, then these aberrations are bound to creep in, bound to persist, and bound to aggravate. Now, my worry in all of this is that the quality of being human is being degraded. And no matter what material progress you achieve, no matter what your DGP or the GDP numbers are, no matter how you're acclaimed on the stage of world nations, if the people in a country are of such low stuff, then what does it avail us? For example, when a society degenerates in terms of its human quality, you cannot build happy interpersonal relationships. Husband and wife cannot live in peace because they don't respect each other's worth. Already you know that domestic violence is on the increase, that divorce rates are really going through the roof, that sexual crimes, sex related crimes are increasing exponentially. Why does this happen? It happens because human beings are now becoming increasingly unable to recognize each other's worth. If you know the other person has some worth, and if you respect that worth, you cannot ill-treat or abuse or take advantage of that person. Even if you catch that person in the most helpless of circumstances, you cannot ill-treat that person or abuse that person. So this poison that's being injected into the veins of our shared life is affecting us, and is going to affect us all the more in a variety of ways. And this is a game into which we are misled, from which none of us has any gain. We have only everything to lose. But a handful of people have everything to gain, and that is, they can be on the stage of power, they can strut their R upon the stage of power, but time will catch up with all of them. They too will collapse like a house of cards. So ultimately, even they will not benefit, and a whole country would have gone to ruins. Now, please remember that in the run-up to the ascendancy of Hitler's total hegemony over Germany, which the people of Germany regret to this day, but when this was happening, they all felt very high. So the run-up to Hitler's ascendancy in relation to the life of Germany was paved with the deliberate attempt to degrade the human stock of Germans. Germans were actually the pride of Europe at that time, not exactly during Hitler's times, but in the preceding 100 years. The German culture was denoted as the high culture of Europe. And even today, historians wonder how a people nurtured in this high culture could collapse, could degenerate overnight into this kind of demonic hell broth of hate and self-destruction. Even today, people are puzzled how this could happen. Now, what I want to tell you is this. Hitler, before he launched his attack on the Jews, first degraded the humanity of Germans, made them insensitive to the beauty of being human, made them believe that hate rather than love is the ultimate national pride, and that's the only source of salvation. And the Germans paid very dearly for it. I want to go into those details. So we have an object lesson not far back in history as to what happens when the quality of our humanity is degraded to make us slaves and servants of a particular agenda, which history tells us is the bus ride to nowhere. It's actually a plunge into the bottomless abyss. So when I come across responses of this kind, and there are plenty of such responses, as you know, I'm sure you also look up the response column, so you know who these people are. I sincerely feel sorry for them, because no human being should be in that plight. To set one's mind deliberately against truth, to be determined that one would misunderstand and misrepresent everything, to decide that one's power of speech and one's ability to write will be put at the service only of spreading falsehood, hatred, and calumny, I think is the ultimate form of self-punishment. It's worse than capital punishment. How does a person like that live with himself or herself? I don't know. Fortunately, people of this kind are only male. I have not seen a single lady responding in that manner. It's all by men. So the macho politics of our times, about which we are exhorted to be very proud. This is the contribution of men. And let me close by saying this. Women have been the bearers of life. Unfortunately, all through history, men have been the bearers of hate and cruelty. Armies, conquests, large-scale destruction, bloodshed. Communal rights, the Inquisition, the blackest spot in the history of Christianity, the Govan Inquisition, the Crusades. Look at any and all of them. You'll find men, men, men. And yet, by a perverse logic that all of us have accepted, it is valorous and noble to kill. So soldiers are hailed and celebrated. But women who give birth to life are despised. You know, in the Christian community, there is an obnoxious, repugnant practice. A woman who has given birth to a baby has to be purified by a priest. Can you believe it? Even today, it's the one thing that makes my blood boil. The man who impregnates her is pure. He does not have to be purified. The woman who has suffered the aches and pains, the burden and the struggle, denying herself, putting up with every form of the stress and strain of life in order to give birth to a precious, sacred life, becomes impure in the eyes of the priest just because she has given birth to a new life. The most heavenly, the most divine thing to do. And she becomes, this is the kind of diabolic stupidity that guides our thought. Now, the kind of hate politics that we see, it's all part of the same hell broth. Therefore, let me conclude this video by repeating what I said a short while ago. Please take care of yourself. Allow no one in the world to corrupt your soul, corrupt the inner sanctuary of your life. Let there be light within you. You are the embodiment of light. You are the most precious thing that ever was. Do you know that in the entire history of humankind, there was none like you ever before? There is none like you on planet Earth even today, though it is peopled by about 8 billion people. There will not be another person like you for the remainder of human history. You are that unique. Who in the world can decide what your worth is? But if you don't recognize it yourself and you don't do everything that you possibly can in order to enhance, increase, and celebrate your personal worth, then it's a terribly disappointing thing. And even more heartbreaking is surrendering oneself to the malicious, diabolic, malignant campaign and the vested interests of certain groups, agencies, to be used by them, to be degraded, that they may make some gain out of it, and for you to be ultimately discarded as the refuse, the garbage of life. This tragedy should not happen to you. This tragedy should not happen to any fellow human being. It certainly should not happen to a fellow Indian. That is the reason why I am doing what I am doing. So it's possible for members of both camps to misunderstand and misrepresent me as the camp follower of this camp, and the followers of Modi would say that I am a Rahul idiot. Rahul's followers would perhaps think of me as a Modi idiot, because my interest is not in caricaturing anyone. Of course, I will speak my mind regarding what I consider to be unacceptable and harmful to the life of India, to the future of India, and what degrades the dignity that Mother India is entitled to. That's the bottom line for me. Other than that, I stand for you. And first of all, I stand for myself. I cannot bring myself to flattering anyone or compromising the truth I know just to curry favors with someone or to avoid somebody's anger and displeasure. I am who I am, and I believe that this is what God has created and called me to be, and I want to stay faithful to the end. That is, to me, the essence of freedom. So ultimately the question arises, as Indians, do we have the right to be free or not? And the most fundamental of all freedoms is the freedom to be human, the freedom to be human. Jai Hind. Have a great day.